In the 10th year of marriage, Blake was unfaithful. He came to me with the 2 children of his affair partner. He said the children were pitiful and needed a father. Our daughter pleaded bitterly, but he remained unmoved. I didn't pester him. I took my daughter and left, afraid that she might be bullied. I didn't remarry. Many years later, my daughter met a good man. The granddaughter is also very lovely. I take care of her all day long, and life is happy and smooth. On my 60th birthday, my daughter and son-in-law said that they were busy with company affairs and the granddaughter also had to take a temporary makeup class. The birthday banquet will be held tomorrow. But that night, I brushed a video from the same city. In the luxurious box of the hotel, my daughter's family stood with Blake. There were also those 2 children. The 6 of them gathered around and sang a birthday song for the person who had an affair back then. My daughter also called her mother Seraphine. My daughter said that for my 60th birthday, it must be grandly held. I told her not to be extravagant. She said no. She also said that she had seen all my hardships over the years, so the birthday banquet must be grandly held. I was warmed in my heart and very touched. Over the years, I have been raising my daughter alone, watching her grow up, and then seeing her get married and have children. My son-in-law is very filial and takes care of me as if I were his own mother. The granddaughter is also very lovely and will sweetly call me grandma. I am very happy. The pain of being betrayed by Blake has been gradually healed over the years. So when my daughter took the initiative to mention holding a grand birthday banquet, I was really touched. I am also looking forward to the day of my 60th birthday. When people are old, they like liveliness and more want to see their children and grandchildren around them. Only then is there hope in life. So on this day, I got up early. I tidied up neatly and sent my granddaughter Kiao to school. After my daughter and son-in-law finished eating the breakfast I left on the table, they each went to the company to work. My daughter said that she and her son-in-law would finish handling work in the morning and then come home early to hold a birthday banquet for me. I am at home, waiting for them while tidying up the house. But after waiting for a long time and past the agreed time, my daughter still hasn't come back. Afraid that something might happen to her, I just wanted to call her. My daughter's call came. Mom, there is an important matter that needs to be dealt with temporarily in my company. The same is true for Xianyan. It's so sudden. We can't ask for leave. Maybe we can't celebrate your birthday today. My daughter's tone was full of guilt. I was a little disappointed. But the children's careers are more important. So I tried to calm down. Then I said to her, "It's okay. Work is the most important. You can work at ease. Later, I will pick up Kiao from school." By the way, before I could finish speaking, my daughter suddenly spoke and interrupted me. "Mom, it's your birthday today. Don't be busy. As for Kiao, my friend just happens to pass by the school in the afternoon, and will pick up Kiao after school and send her to my company. You can just rest at home." Thinking of my daughter's heavy workload in Kiao's young age, I couldn't help but say, "Or should I pick her up? You are so busy at work. This little girl is at a naughty age and will disturb your work." Hearing my words, my daughter seemed a little anxious and even raised her voice a lot. "Oh, my friend is on the way. Mom, don't worry. Have a good rest at home. You don't have to worry about Kiao. I still have a meeting later. I won't talk to you anymore." As soon as she finished speaking, she quickly hung up the phone and didn't give me a chance to speak again. I listened to the beeping sound on the other end of the phone and couldn't help sighing. My daughter is so busy at work and has lost a lot of weight recently. So I went into the kitchen again and planned to stew an old hen for her and my son-in-law to nourish their bodies. The old hen needs to be stewed for a long time and the housework is also done. So I sat on the sofa, took out my phone, and planned to rest for a while first. When people are old, they love to brush videos when they have nothing to do. I clicked on the video recommendation page and swiped several in a row. There was nothing good to watch. Just as I was about to quit, I accidentally clicked on the same city. At a glance, I recognized the back of the woman on the cover. It was my daughter Claire. The video was posted half an hour ago. I decisively clicked on the video. Looking at the scene, it seemed to be a hotel box. My daughter stood in front of the table. Next to her, the son-in-law was holding Kiao Kiao. The three of them were all smiling. Claire slightly turned her head, and the camera turned to the side. Then, I saw Blake. If you ask who I hate the most in my life, it must undoubtedly be Blake. When we were in love when we were young, I thought we could live a happy life. Until the 10th year of marriage. The husband of his once white moonlight had an accidental car accident and only left the white moonlight and a pair of children. The orphan and the widow were so pitiful. At first, he secretly helped them behind my back. Later, when I found out, we had a big fight. His face was flushed red and he scolded me for being too cruel. Later, he held the pair of children of his white moonlight and handed me the divorce agreement. He said, Xiaozai and Weiwei are too young and can't be without a father. So he wanted to divorce me and be with the white moonlight and become the father of these two children. When he said this, our daughter Claire, hugging his thigh and crying non-stop, crying and saying that dad should not leave. But Blake turned around and left so resolutely. I didn't pester him too much. I took most of his property and then left with my daughter. I changed my daughter's surname to mine. Her surname is Claire. Her name is Claire. Afraid that Claire would be bullied by her stepfather. I didn't remarry. I just took care of her wholeheartedly. Watched her grow up little by little. Enter college. Fall in love and get married. And then gave birth to the lovely Kiao Kiao. During this process, Blake never appeared. Occasionally, I heard that he and the white moonlight didn't have any more children. They raised the pair of children as their own and worked hard without complaint. Claire once told me that she hated Blake as much as I did. I thought that she, who had memories when we divorced back then, would remember the pain in my heart and avoid them like snakes and scorpions. But I didn't expect that they still had contact in private. Not only that, in the video I watched, Claire and Blake were standing together. The two were talking in low voices, without the slightest hint of hatred. They even took the lead in singing the birthday song. The son-in-law and Kiao Kiao also clapped along. The pair of children who have grown up also sang the birthday song together. And the woman surrounded by them is exactly Blake's white moonlight. Serafina. She is still as charming as ever, wearing a beautiful dress, surrounded by everyone like stars around the moon. She still lies like a little princess. I and she have the same birthday. Even more ridiculous is that Claire, my daughter whom I regard as my life, after singing the birthday song, came in front of Serafina, reached out and hugged her, and called her mother Serafina. I threw my phone on the ground. The video was still playing on a loop. My heart ached a little. More than that, I still couldn't believe it. I always wanted to find a reason for myself. My daughter, who has been by my side all along, has witnessed her father's heartlessness and also seen how Serafina pretended to be an innocent white lotus, saying sorry while entering our house and destroying our complete family. So, how could she possibly call that woman Mom? I couldn't believe it. I sat on the sofa for a long time until I smelled the unpleasant burn smell from the kitchen. The soup for the old hen had dried up. I quickly turned off the fire. In a state of restlessness, I directly reached out to touch the pot, and a large area of my finger was burned and turned red. I just wanted to deal with the burn. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I saw a delivery person holding a cake in his hand. That cake was ordered by myself. A small piece. When people get old, they are always prone to being sentimental in spring and autumn. So after I received Claire's call, I ordered a small cake online. Celebrating alone is also a celebration. I put the cake on the coffee table and placed a few candles on it. I put my hands together and began to close my eyes and make a wish. The wish had been thought of early. I hope my precious daughter will have a happy and smooth life. I hope my son-in-law will always love my daughter. I hope the lovely Kiao Kiao will be healthy and intelligent. This was the wish I originally wanted to make. But now, as soon as I close my eyes, I see Claire lying to me that she has to work overtime, and then taking the son-in-law and granddaughter to Serafina's grand birthday celebration. In the video, a group of people surrounded Serafina. That birthday was really lively. Just like a family. Unlike me now. Alone, and deserted. Like a clown. Like a joke. A piece of flesh from my body has turned into a sharp knife stabbing at me. It's so painful. When people get old, they are too prone to being sentimental. And tears are also unruly. While wiping away years, I made a new wish. I hope, in the remaining days of my life, I will be happy and joyful. That's right. For so many years, my wishes have all been for my children and never for myself. But now, thinking about it, it's really not worth it. I ate 2 mouthfuls of cake. The cake was very greasy and not delicious at all. I glanced at the time again. By now, it was already 11 o'clock at night. At this time on ordinary days, I would have finished all the housework at home. After putting the child to sleep, I would go back to my room and sleep. However, I can't sleep tonight. The next moment, there was movement at the gate. Claire tiptoed in. But after passing through the entrance, she saw me sitting in the living room at a glance. She was stunned for a moment, looking a bit panicked. The son-in-law and Kiao Kiao followed behind her. The two were still chattering about today's birthday banquet. Until they saw me, they simultaneously closed their mouths. Kiao Kiao even pretended that nothing had happened, blinking those innocent big eyes. She reached out to me and said she missed Grandma and wanted Grandma to hug her. Looking at Kiao Kiao, who rushed to my side, I didn't pick her up lovingly as I used to. This child, from the moment she was born, I have taken care of her with all my heart, just like I did with Claire. The son-in-law has no parents. They are also busy with work. In this big city, the expenses are already high. So I have been taking care of Kiao Kiao all along, to let my daughter and son-in-law have no worries and be able to work at ease. But this little one has also betrayed me like her mother. Looking at Claire walking towards me, she seemed to still want to pretend that nothing had happened. Pretending to reach out and rub her shoulder. She said that today's work was really busy and tomorrow she would definitely give me a grand celebration. When her eyes fell on the small cake on the coffee table, she was stunned for a moment. Mom, did you buy a cake yourself? Perhaps it was because this cake was too small. Or perhaps it was because the cake they bought for Serafina's birthday celebration today was too big. The guilt in her eyes was even greater. I felt that probing was meaningless. So I directly asked her, Claire, where did you go today? She paused. Her eyes fell on my face, as if she was hurriedly looking for something. In the end, she still chose to play dumb. Mom, what are you talking about? I went to work today. After saying that, she glanced at Qin Xiaonian and Qin Kiao Kiao again. The former quickly nodded. Yes. Mom, I was extremely busy at work today. My whole body aches. As for the latter, she also imitated her father and shook her head vigorously. Grandma, we didn't eat cake today. No, a child's logic is always not very meticulous. When there are too many words, a truth is revealed. Claire didn't even have time to reach out and cover her mouth. She could only give me an awkward smile and her eyeballs rolled around. As soon as she opened her mouth, she lied. Mom, don't misunderstand. Kiao Kiao couldn't sit still and was making a fuss in my company. So I bought her a small cake. Listening to this clumsy lie, I felt very disappointed. So I took out my phone, found that video, and directly threw it in front of her. She was stunned for a moment, opened her mouth, as if she wanted to explain something, but in the end, she sighed and directly sat down beside me, with an impulse of giving up. Oh Mom, after all these years, I know you hate Dad, but I have a blood relationship with him. For you. I have seldom seen him these years. Haven't I done enough? You are so old now. What kind of feud can't you let go? Even if you can't let it go, don't drag me into it. Which time haven't I been by your side on your birthday these years? And Serafina has the same birthday as you. Although she doesn't say it. She hopes very much to have a family reunion. So I was thinking that since we live together anyway, any day is a birthday. I can celebrate her birthday first. Can't I make it up for you tomorrow? Mom, you are so old. Don't be moody. Okay? Xian An and I are already very tired from work every day. When I am with Dad, I can be a little more relaxed. But look at you now. Can you think about me a little bit too? Listening to my daughter's complaining words, my already cold heart became even colder. So I asked her, are you blaming me for preventing you from reuniting with your dad? I looked at Claire. She didn't look like Blake at all. Her appearance was more like mine. So when we got divorced, Blake gave all his fatherly love to Serafina's son and daughter. Especially the daughter. Yu Shuiai. When I first saw her, she was only 6 years old. But her expression was exactly like Serafina's. So Blake loved her the most. At that time, Claire cried hysterically and curled up in my arms, asking me over and over again, Mom, why doesn't Dad want me? Why is he going to be someone else's dad again? Doesn't he love me anymore? At that time, looking at her crying, I felt my heart was breaking. The child I gave birth to after 10 months of pregnancy met such an irresponsible father. It was so sad. But now it seems that all this is a joke. Claire listened to my words, and didn't seem to notice the difference in my tone. She coquetted as usual. Mom, I didn't mean that. But think about it. Dad is old now. Anyway, half of his blood flows in my body. No matter how much hatred there is. It's been so many years. Shouldn't it disappear? And Aunt Serafina's mother. No, Aunt Serafina. She is actually very nice. When she took Dad away back then, it was just because she was worried that brother Shuzai and sister Shui had no father. But later she also said sorry to me herself, and would buy me gifts and treat me like her own daughter. No matter how many feuds there are. You are so old now. Why are you still clinging to those old things and not letting go? Listening to my daughter's complaints, I only found it ridiculous. The father who abandoned her without looking back. She hid in countless late nights, crying and throwing herself into my arms, asking me over and over again why her dad didn't want her. And Serafina, who was a mistress, just by buying a gift. Claire can let go of the past. So I directly shook off her hand. Claire, so, in your opinion, it's me being unreasonable if I don't forgive Blake and Serafina? My daughter nodded, looking as if it was only natural. It is. I wasn't very old back then. No matter how much hatred there was. I have forgotten it. Now when I close my eyes, all I can think of are the scenes of Dad being nice to me when I was little. How happy it was back then. So Mom, I also hope you can forget. Let's be a family like before. Aunt Serafina is really nice. Maybe you can be sis. Before she could finish her words, I slapped her in the face. She let out a scream and quickly stood up, covering her face and yelling at me. Mom, why did you hit me for no reason? With your hot temper like this. No wonder Dad likes gentle and quiet Aunt Serafina's mother more. After saying that, she directly ran into the room crying. My son-in-law and Kiao Kiao quickly followed and comforted her. The door was not closed. I could vaguely hear the voices of their conversation. Old people are confused. Remembering some trivial things for a lifetime. A grumpy old lady. So annoying. There were many more. These were the words of my daughter whom I have loved for half my life. At this moment, I was really heartbroken. So I stood up, went back to my room, packed my luggage, and quit the owner group on my phone. My daughter and son-in-law have been working hard for many years. But the housing prices in the capital are really too high. Until now, they still have to pay off the mortgage every month. I feel sorry for them. I give them my pension every month and also pay their mortgage every month, as well as utilities, daily grocery shopping, and even Kiao's cram school. I pay for all these. Now that I have chosen to leave, naturally I will not pay these expenses anymore. As for whether they can afford it without me paying these expenses, it is not within my concern. In addition, I actually have another property that I haven't told anyone, including Claire. At first, I was guarding against my son-in-law, afraid that he would change his mind like Blake. So the property is under my name. I was thinking that after I pass away, I will transfer the house to my daughter. Now it seems that it is completely unnecessary. And that house will also become my place to live in the future, with a generous pension every month. In fact, I can live a good life by myself. When I left the room, Claire's crying hadn't stopped, and the cake on the coffee table was still there. Everything was so messy. So I dragged my suitcase and left without any hesitation. For when I was settled, it was already 3 o'clock in the morning. After taking a bath and lying on the bed, when I turned on my phone, there was no missed call or unread message. After all, she is the daughter I have raised for more than 20 years. After all, it still hurts a little, but it's better to be in pain. I won't be reluctant, and I won't persuade myself to turn back. I canceled the alarm clock I set every morning. Then I turned off the light, covered myself with the quilt, got rid of all the distractions in my mind, and closed my eyes to sleep. This night, I didn't sleep well. Over and over again in my mind, I always dreamed of the scenes of getting along with Claire in the past. At that time, Blake insisted on divorcing me. Although I took most of his property, my daughter was still too young, and because of this incident, she suffered serious psychological trauma and couldn't even go to school for a while. I had no choice but to temporarily quit my job and stay by her side every day. She always slept restlessly. In the middle of the night, she would have nightmares and cry and shout for Mom and Dad not to leave her. I would hold her and sing the nursery rhyme I used to lull her to sleep and sit by her side all night. She had a peaceful sleep all night, while I had a sore back and my arms were still unable to recover for a long time. At that time, Claire, seeing me in discomfort, would hold my hand tightly. Then she would start massaging my arm. While massaging, she would say, "Mom, I'll give you a massage and it won't hurt anymore." At that time, she was really very obedient. I let out a long breath, opened my eyes, picked up my phone and glanced at the time. Although I had turned off the alarm clock, due to years of habit, my internal biological clock woke up and I woke up on time. Usually, I would go to the kitchen to prepare breakfast first. Then I would call Kiao to get up. She is young and every time she would dawdle in bed for a long time. I would coax her and hold her, help her wash up, and then tie a cute little braid for her before letting her have breakfast. After she finished eating, I would send her to kindergarten. Then I would return home. At this time, Claire and Qin Xianlian had already finished breakfast and were on their way to work. I would start to clear the tableware and then clean up. In short, I was busy all day long, revolving around this whole family and having almost no self. Now it's better. After I get up, I only need to make breakfast for myself. After eating, I go downstairs and take a walk in the community and stretch my muscles. The days are comfortable and casual. However, before I could return from my walk, Claire's call came. When she made the first call, I didn't answer it. She made a second and a third call. Until the fifth call, I accidentally touched it and clicked to answer by mistake. I didn't press the speakerphone, but Claire's voice on the other end of the phone was still astonishingly loud. "Mom, where have you been all night? How old are you? Are you still a young person who runs away from home whenever you want? You don't even care about Kiao. She's going to be late for school. You don't make breakfast either. Do you want us to go to work on an empty stomach? Do you know that I have a very important meeting, and I can't afford to be delayed at all? The questioning sounds one after another, as if taking care of them has become my responsibility. I didn't say anything, but Claire on the other end of the phone was still talking nonstop. I just asked you to help me take care of my child, cook, and clean up the house. You enjoy a happy life at home. Claire and John work hard from dawn to dusk for this family. Now you disappear whenever you want. Don't you think you're being too excessive? Excessive. I couldn't help but smile bitterly. This is the child connected by blood to me. I have dedicated my whole life to her, and she seems to never see my hardships and thinks that all this is taken for granted. If it was yesterday, I might still be a little sad and reluctant to part from these years of depending on each other. Then from now on, I am really disappointed in her. Claire, although I live in your house, all your monthly mortgage payments and all expenses are paid with my money. I take care of this family painstakingly. If you think this is enjoying a happy life, then you can do all this well from now on. As for me, since you don't like me as your mother, I don't want you as my daughter anymore. After saying that, I directly hung up the phone and ignored her anymore. But after all, I was still affected by some emotions. So I went upstairs and changed into another set of clothes and planned to go shopping in the mall. All these years, I have been revolving around Claire and her husband and daughter. I rarely go to the mall, and haven't bought clothes for myself much. Now that I have thrown off all these heavy burdens, my savings and my monthly pension are enough for me to live a good life. Buying some beautiful clothes, nice bags and jewelry and becoming a chic and free little old lady is not impossible. But I didn't expect that I would have such an enjoyable shopping spree for once. I actually met Blake in the mall. He was walking side by side with Serafina. The two of them walked into a clothing store and just happened to meet me face to face. When Blake saw me, his eyes dodged a little. Serafina, on the other hand, had a smile on her lips, and walked up to me with a proud face. Just like when we first met. She was still so annoying. Audrey, are you here to buy clothes too? She didn't hide her exaggerated smile at all. Her eyes looked me up and down. Then she shook her head and spoke in a tone as if for my own good. Tell me, you have to take care of children and clean up the house every day. Even if you buy this beautiful piece of clothing, do you have time to wear it? Or, have you taken a fancy to some old man recently and plan to dress up nicely to develop something? Human nature always loves to listen to gossip. She spoke loudly enough that many customers in the same store couldn't help but look sideways. For this woman who can now be called an old mistress. I was also not polite at all. When more and more eyes gathered, I directly exclaimed, "How can I compare to you?" Back then, as soon as her husband died, she threw herself into my husband's arms with a pair of children. With such skills as yours, I really can't learn it no matter how hard I try all these years. People present have experienced many years of wind and rain and are mostly experienced. So some things don't need to be said too clearly. They can also see the profound meaning in it. A customer who had just entered the store even directly exclaimed, "Oh, so it's an old mistress." Hearing this, Serafina's face flushed red. Blake immediately stepped forward and wanted to scold me as soon as he opened his mouth. "Audrey, don't be too excessive." I smiled. I turned to look at that customer and then pointed at Blake. "Look, this is the man who was seduced away back then, saying that other people's children have no father. He resolutely abandoned his own daughter and rushed to be a father for others. The child still doesn't have his last name until now, and he doesn't care at all. Isn't he very great? That pair of children still have the surname you." For Blake, they only call him uncle. And this point is a pain that Blake has always had in his heart. Now that I have directly laid it out in the open, his face is even more livid. But since what I said is all the truth, he can only look at me indignantly. And the crowd laughed even louder, and all said that he is a big sucker. Serafina was also extremely angry. Unable to argue with me, she was about to pull Blake and leave. But it was just so coincidental. At this time, it was just off-duty time. Claire appeared in the shopping mall and happened to meet Serafina. Serafina's mother. What's wrong with you? Seeing her ugly complexion, Claire immediately asked anxiously. Serafina was still extremely angry just now. At this moment, looking at Claire surrounding her, she instantly straightened and her back. Then she turned to look at me. Your mother is still angry with me. It's also my fault. I shouldn't have asked you to come and celebrate my birthday. As she spoke, Serafina lowered her head, looking extremely aggrieved. Claire looked up at me, perhaps still holding a grudge from this morning. So she unabashedly took Serafina's hand and then strode up to me and began to reprimand me. Mom, do you have to be so moody all the time? Look at Serafina's mother. She is gentle and kind. If you are moody all the time, any man would know who to choose. What a good daughter I gave birth to. This knife stabs right into my heart and lungs. So I directly raised my hand and slapped her hard. A piece of flesh that fell from my body should never become a sharp knife stabbing at me. This is really ironic. Mom, you hit me again? She covered her face, looking shocked. I looked at her coldly. The heart that would still feel some pain before is now gradually becoming angry and then gradually calming down. It is the extreme calm after disappointment, making me feel that Claire in front of me is extremely strange. Such a strange child is not my daughter. I don't want her. So I directly reached out and pushed her, pushing her towards Serafina and Blake. Since you like them better, then you can call them Mom and Dad from now on. I don't have that kind of fortune. I don't want to be your mom anymore. She seemed to be angered and amused by me. She directly reached out and took Serafina's arm, as if to deliberately anger me. She said loudly, "If you don't want to be my mom, then don't be. I don't want a mom with such an unstable mood like you. Serafina's mother is so nice. I will go to their house for dinner today. Our family will be very harmonious. Unlike you who always think about those old things in the past and complain all day long." Her movements were so exaggerated that her ID card in her pocket fell to the ground just like that. Hearing the noise, I habitually looked down. The back of the ID card was facing up. The photo should be newly taken. And in the column for the name, it was Claire. So, the daughter I held dear in my heart had secretly changed her surname back to Blake behind my back a long time ago. Claire also noticed my gaze. After all, she was still a bit guilty. Touching her nose, she explained, "It's just a surname. Since ancient times, haven't children always taken their father's surname? And there is no child on Ad's side who takes his surname. You are a woman and don't mind, but you can't let Dad's side have no descendants. Oh, it's just a surname. Do you have to be so fussy about it?" Claire got more and more angry as she talked. Even though I didn't say anything, she still showed an impatient look. I stared at that name for a long time. Once upon a time, it was she who said she didn't want her father. She said that we depended on each other and were the only family. So she wanted to take my surname and be called Claire. Now, she is Claire. This means that there is no relationship left between us at all. I waved at her and said calmly, "It's okay. You can have any surname you want. It has nothing to do with me." After all, I really decided not to want this daughter anymore. 6 on the way back, I blocked all of Claire's contact information. Completely cut off all connections. I looked at my savings and glanced at the retirement pension that just arrived this month. Decisively, I found an exquisite small tour group online, and then packed my luggage and went on a trip. All these years, I have been wholeheartedly devoted to that Claire. I haven't seen the great rivers and mountains. In the past, she always said that when she grew up, after graduating, after finding a job, after getting married, after having children, and when the children grew up, she would take me on a trip. But after waiting again and again, year after year, I never waited for the day when she would take me on a trip. Fortunately, now that I am alone, I can also see the great rivers and mountains. I saw the mountains, and then went to see the sea. I had a great conversation with people in the same small tour group. I shall call her Sister May for now. Sister May, like me, has been devoted to her family all her life. Her greatest wish is to hope that her spouse and children can take her out for a stroll. But this wish was reprimanded by them, saying that Sister May is not sensible. When you are old, you should stay at home and take care of the children obediently, always thinking about going crazy outside. At an old age, you don't know shame. So she was heartbroken, taking her savings from these years. She blocked everyone in her family and went on a spontaneous trip. We have similar interests and have similar experiences. So we had a great time along the way. Even before we parted, we added each other's contact information and agreed on the time for the next trip. However, there is happiness and there is also trouble. In that small tour group, there is an old man 1 year older than me. His wife died of illness earlier. His children have grown up one after another. He has several grandchildren. His life is still quite happy. But he said that there is always some loneliness without a woman at home. Knowing that I got divorced earlier, his eyes lit up. He said he was willing to make do with me and live together. I didn't want to and didn't plan to pay attention to him. But he actually chased me to my doorstep. When I dragged my suitcase and returned home, before I could even unpack my things, I saw him standing at my door holding a large bouquet of red roses. Audrey, look at us. We are about the same age. You are divorced and I don't have a wife either. Why not live together? I quite like you. From now on, I will give you all my savings. I don't need you to do anything. My sons and daughters will take care of the grandchildren. You just need to take care of me. Do my laundry and cook for me. When you have nothing to do, accompany me for a walk. When my sons and daughters are too busy, you can help take care of the children. It's very easy. Listening to his words, I took a deep breath. If I were 20 years younger, I would pick up a mop and hit him on the head. But now that I am older, I am afraid that before I can pick up the mop, I will hurt my waist. So I directly called the security guard and asked him to drive the person away. Audrey, why are you so heartless? Don't you like me? Although I am in my 60s now, I am still a handsome old man. You will be proud to take me out. Haven't you been lonely all these years without a spouse? The security guard was driving him away while he struggled and tried to speak. I finally couldn't bear it anymore. Holding the garbage in my hand, I started hitting him. The commotion was so loud that Claire, who had just entered the community, saw me at a glance. Mom, why are you here? She quickly walked towards me. I went on a 3-month tour and had a great time. I was in a good mood and even gained several pounds. Unlike her, she was extremely haggard and clearly had lost a lot of weight. I didn't say anything. When she came up to me and pointed at the old man who was still struggling constantly, it seemed as if she suddenly realized something. Immediately, she pointed at me and said, Mom, how old are you? You still want to find a partner? Don't you know how to be ashamed? Her eyes were full of condemnation, and she looked extremely angry. Then she kept hitting the old man with her bag and told him to go away. While hitting him, she also scolded, Mom, are you stupid? At your age, if an old man still has designs on you, 9 times out of 10 it's for your property. And you are so stupid as to fall for it. After driving away the old man, she looked at me again and pointed at the community behind me. Why? You didn't answer my calls during this time. You rented a house here alone. You're really living a carefree life, aren't you? She seemed to have thought of something, and was very unhappy. Then she said, You are having a great time and being a hands-off boss, not caring about anything. Do you know that I am alone at home? Busy with work on one hand and taking care of the child on the other? I am so busy. And you just keep causing trouble for me. You don't take care of the child or do housework. Instead, you run outside and enjoy yourself and get involved with other old men. You are really a good mother to me. The sarcasm in her words was very obvious. I looked at her with cold eyes and said, as I said when we met last time, since you like Serafina more, then be her daughter from now on. As for me, I am not blessed to be your mother and don't want to be your mother anymore. As for all that mess in your family, I have no obligation to take care of it for you. Understand? Hearing my words, it seemed as if she finally came to her senses and knew that I was really determined. But she still couldn't help but scold me. What do you mean by being or not being my mother? We are connected by blood. I came out of your belly. You must be my daughter. Go home early. There are a lot of messes at home. You were the one paying the monthly mortgage and the water, gas, and electricity bills at home. Suddenly, you disappeared without a trace. Do you know that this has left me and Xiaonin at a loss? We don't earn much money to begin with, and we still have to raise a child. We haven't saved a penny in these few months. It's all your fault. Hearing her scolding words, I slapped her again. Get lost. I was completely disappointed. So I didn't want to listen to her anymore and turned around and walked inside. She covered her slapped face and stomped her foot where she stood. Mom, Audrey, are you being interesting every day? I just said a few truths. And you hit me. Dad was right not to want you. This sentence made me stop in an instant. I turned around. She looked at me, thinking that I was going to give in. She just raised her eyebrows and smiled at me. I directly threw another bag of garbage that I hadn't thrown away onto her head. Claire, when Blake wanted to divorce me, it was because he was blind and a jerk. Between me and him, there was just that marriage certificate. Once divorced, there was nothing. But it's different for you. You are connected by blood with him. He can still abandon you for a child who has no blood relationship with him. In fact, who is the real clown? You know it in your heart. Perhaps before. I never thought that there would come a day when I would stab each other with the piece of flesh that came out of my body. However, if we have to stab each other, then so be it. It's just a piece of flesh that fell off me. It's like a piece of rotten flesh. Only by cutting it off can it get better. No one will be attached to rotten flesh because it's not worth it. Claire is not worth it. I turned around and left again. She was so angry that her face turned red. Just when she wanted to follow me and say something, the phone rang suddenly. She answered the phone and soon exclaimed, "What? There's a fire at home?" Immediately after, she hurried back. And the woman who came with her also ran out. While running, she shouted, "Miss Blake, are we still looking at houses today?" 7 Qin Xiaomei and S parents passed away early. So after he and Claire got married and had a child, I moved in with them. I took care of the child and their lives at the same time. So I lived in that community for many years and got to know many friends. Especially Sister Lin. She is the person in the community who loves gossip the most. Whenever something new happens in the community, she is always the first to know, and then shares it with us old sisters. Like this time when Claire's house got fire. In less than half an hour, Sister Lin's video call came. We have always had a good relationship. Even after I moved away, she often sent greetings and told me not to be polite and just ask if I needed help. So I wouldn't not answer her video call. As soon as I answered, I saw her looking extremely excited. The video was aimed at Claire's house window. "Audrey, your damn daughter is in trouble." She chuckled and then started telling me everything that had happened in these few months. At first, I joined a tour group and went on a trip. Claire couldn't find me, and was slapped by me several times. She was full of anger and kept in contact with Serafina. Serafina's son and daughter are not married yet. Yu Shusei is a hooligan. He didn't like studying before, and now he doesn't like going to work. He is loafing around all day. As for Yu Shuiai, she also doesn't want to go to work. She just wants to find a rich man to marry all day. Seeing that Claire bought a big house and although she was still paying the mortgage, the family condition was already quite good. So she sent her son and daughter to Claire. In the name of being a family, they should get along more. This son and daughter were not polite either. They came to Claire's house the next day. Every time they came empty-handed and left with a lot of things. Yu Shusei had also invited a bunch of friends to have a party at his house before. It was a mess. Qin Xiangnian was very angry. After arguing with Claire, Yu Shusei still did whatever he wanted. This time, he quietly brought people over again. As a result, after drinking too much, one person was lying on the sofa smoking. There was also half a bottle of liquor that had been drunk. It was kicked over. The cigarette ash lit the sofa fabric. Coupled with the liquor on the ground, it directly set the house on fire. As soon as Qin Xiangnian got home, he saw thick smoke billowing from his own window. Yu Shuzhe finally managed to run downstairs. When he saw Qin Xiangnian, who had just got off work, he immediately started swearing. He said that Qin's house was not good and almost killed him. He also demanded compensation from Qin. Qin Xiangnian was very angry and started fighting with him on the spot. A group of people couldn't pull them apart even with their efforts. When Claire hurried back, Yu Shuzhe and Qin Xiangnian suddenly stopped fighting. The two of them simultaneously directed their attacks at Claire and scolded her harshly. In short, after this farce ended, that house naturally couldn't be inhabited for a short time. Claire originally wanted to stay at Blake's house for a while. As a result, he directly said there was no room and asked them to stay in a hotel, showing no regard for their feelings at all. A group of people sat downstairs in the community, eating melon seeds and watching the show. Sister Lin directly pointed the camera at them, allowing me to watch a live broadcast. At the end, Sister Lin said to me, "Evil people will be punished by evil people. Don't be soft-hearted. For a daughter like this, there is no need to feel sorry." I nodded. Indeed, I didn't feel sorry at all. After all, I had been completely disappointed. Looking at them still entangled and quarreling in the video, I just found it somewhat ridiculous. Family affection became extremely ironic at this moment. At the end of this farce, Claire won. She took her family to live there to prove that her choice was right. But she didn't know that it was this decision that completely ruined her. As for me, after that video call with Sister Ling, I didn't pay much attention to Claire's affairs anymore. I recently found a new hobby: handmade ceramics. I go to the store to make all kinds of cute little things, which can relax my mood very well. I went there for several days in a row. Coincidentally, next to the ceramic workshop is a hotel. I just left with the fired ceramics. When I walked out of the ceramic workshop, I happened to see Claire at the hotel entrance, and Qin Xiangnian and Yu Shuiai in disheveled clothes standing in front of them. Qin Xiangnian: "We've been married for 7 years. I even gave birth to a lovely daughter for you. How could you cheat on me with Yu Shuiai?" She was hoarse. Kiao was led by her and looked a bit scared. Yu Shuiai's clothes were not even properly put on. Over the years, she has had many boyfriends. She is extremely bold in her actions. Even when a bunch of people's eyes are on her face, she still doesn't feel the slightest bit ashamed. She even leaned directly into Qin Xiangnian's arms in front of everyone. "Claire, you are now an old hag. No one helps you take care of the child. So you can only quit your job and stay at home to take care of the baby. You don't tidy yourself up day by day. How can Brother Xiangnian not get tired of looking at your face like this?" After saying that, she threw a flirtatious look at Qin Xiangnian beside her. "Brother Xiangnian, tell me, do you like this old woman or me more?" Yu Shuiai is charming and also fresh. During these days, Qin Xiangnian and Claire have been constantly arguing, and there is already a rift between them. Now being caught red-handed, there is not the slightest bit of guilt. Qin Xiangnian directly said, "Claire, what's there to make a fuss about? If you don't stay at home and take care of the child obediently, what are you running around outside for? Which man doesn't cheat? Not to mention others. Just take your dad. Didn't your dad abandon your mom and be with another woman back then? And didn't you still forgive your dad and call that woman Ma? Since you could accept it back then, why can't you accept it now?" Listening to Qin Xiangnian's words, Her eyes widened instantly and then she kept shaking her head. Xiaonian? Qin Xiaonian? How could you say such things? How could you say such things? She seemed somewhat collapse and reached out to hit Qin Xiaonian. Qin Xiam and directly pushed her away, and protected Yu Shui in his arms. Looking down at her like looking at a clown. Claire. I won't hide it from you anymore. Do you really think your dad likes you so much? If it weren't for seeing that I work hard to earn money and buy a house, would he think of recognizing you? His daughter. Again? It's just that he wants to get some benefits from you and save more money for Yu Shuzai and Shui. You are still so stupid as to approach him. Are you lacking love? But you have also done a good thing. Shui is sensible and charming. She is much better than you. Let's get a divorce. I don't want the child. Give it to you. The money is divided equally. Hurry up and leave. Since you can accept your mom's current situation, I think you should have no face to continue pestering. Right? These words one after another all stabbed Claire in the heart. She became more and more hysterical and cried bitterly. Yu Shui was still calm. She reached out and flipped her hair. Then bent down and looked at Qin Qiao standing in front of her. Little baby. Do you think your mom is emotionally unstable? For such a small matter. She is making such a big fuss. Listening to Yu Shui's words, Claire's eyes widened instantly. Get out. You are not allowed to do anything to my daughter. She reached out and pulled Qin Qiao over. The child's arm is too tender. And she used too much force. Qin Qiao immediately started crying. While crying, she reached out and slapped Claire. You are a bad mom. I don't want you. Qin Qiao. I am your mom. I gave birth to you and raised you. How can you talk like this? Claire looked heartbroken and raised her hand to hit the child. Qin Qiao directly bit her wrist. The pain made her shudder. Then she plunged into Yu Shui's arms and turned to look at Claire angrily. You are a bad mom. You are always mean to me. I like Auntie. I want her to be my mom. Hearing this, Claire's eyes widened instantly. She seemed to want to say something, but suddenly her eyes met mine in the crowd. At that moment, her eyes were complicated and full of mockery. Perhaps at this time she finally realized that the words she had said to me before now, in a roundabout way, hit her right between the eyes. 9 After this scene of catching the adulterer, Sister Lin ate melons for a whole day, and sent me dozens of seconds-long voice messages. Among them, it was nothing more than the situation I saw today. Since the house was burned down and the family of 3 lived at Blake's house, there was already some rift between the couple. They quarreled constantly every day. After I left, someone had to take care of Qin Qiao when she went to school and came back. In the end, Claire quit her job and concentrated on taking care of the child at home. Yu Shui took a fancy to Qin Xiaomei and S ability to make money. Back and forth, coupled with deliberate seduction, it two got together. Blake and Serafina also knew about it and even helped cover it up. Even Qin Qiao had run into it several times. With just a lollipop. She chose to keep it a secret. In short, at the end of this farce, Claire, who knows everything, was driven out of the house by this big family. Even her beloved Qin Qiao cried and made a fuss, saying that she didn't want to be with her. Instead, she turned around and threw herself into Yu Shui's arms and called her mother. When I was taking a walk and returning to the community, I just saw Claire at the gate of the community. She squatted in the corner. When she saw me, she was like a pitiful little cat that no one wanted. She reached out and pulled my skirt, and said pitifully, Mom, I was wrong. Will you forgive me? I looked at her. As daughter who is closest to me in a certain sense. If it were in the past, I would definitely be heartbroken to the point of bleeding. Then, regardless of everything, I would take a knife and rush into Blake's house. Even if it cost me my life, I would avenge my daughter. But all the previous events have made me realize that perhaps her current ending is her retribution. So looking at her tears falling, I really don't feel anything now. just like a stranger shedding to worthless dares, trying to make me forgive her in this way. And then take advantage of the situation, move into my house again, continuing to live as before without doing any housework and waiting for me to hold her in my hand as my beloved. But why? She may have been my baby once. But now, she is not anymore. So I shook off her hand, feeling no waves in my heart. I said calmly, "You called the wrong person. I am not your mother. In my life, I did have a daughter. But in my heart, she has long been dead. As for you, go back where you came from and don't appear again. Otherwise, I don't mind calling the security guard. Understand?" After saying that, regardless of her hoarse cries, I went straight home. Claire came to see me several times again. I didn't see her and had already decided not to want this daughter. She probably has felt my firmness. Later, she didn't appear again. And I still take walks every day, make ceramics, or go to the mall to buy a few beautiful skirts. In life, I need to enjoy it well now. And when I heard about her again, it was half a month later. Claire was hit when she was young and had some mental problems. At that time, I accompanied her day by day to make her lively and cheerful again. Now, she is abandoned by everyone. Even her daughter, whom she regards as her life, doesn't want her. On the pretext of leaving the house with nothing, she gathered that big family together and said that she wanted to have one last family reunion dinner. After eating, she would go to another city alone, and never come back. And that meal was cooked by her own hands. And the ambulance also appeared that night. Claire bought a lot of rat poison, paraquat, and various poisons that can be bought on the market. She mixed them together and put them in the dishes. And while everyone was poisoned, she closed the doors and windows tightly and turned on the gas. When they were found, everyone foamed at the mouth and lay on the ground unconscious. All kinds of poisons were mixed together, even if they didn't eat much. But it was too late when they were found. This big family didn't survive until the next day. Even 6-year-old Qin Kiao Kiao lost her life. This news even made it to the national trending topics. People dug out their pasts. They knew that Blake is an out-and-out scumbag. They knew that Serafina is a mistress. They knew that Yushuse is a hooligan who loves fighting and flirting with girls. Extremely disgusting. They knew that Yushui likes to steal other people's boyfriends. Just like her mother. They knew that Qin Xiangyan is also a scumbag and is spurned by people. They knew that Qin Kiao Kiao, even though she is young, but the coldness in her bones is also terrifying. They knew that Claire is blind and finally reaps what she sows. People all over the country know that these people are extremely disgusting and can't wait to spit on them. As for me, I also made it to the trending topics a little. I took the opportunity to start a live broadcast and then made ceramics online. There were many viewers. Some people thought I had suffered too much and gave me a lot of money as rewards. I donated all the money I earned from the live broadcasts to help more people in need. As for me, from now on, I have no ties and am carefree and enjoy freedom.